Hello and welcome to Bedson and Coffee Unfiltered,
where we will be discussing fitness, lifestyle, healthy eating habits, relationships, gas station performance pills, answering romantic queries. You have anything else, Tyler? Is there anything? Do you need help with anything right now? Because I feel like I'm in a position where I can help you with it.
I mean, and everything else that we come across as we go. But you know what it's going to be, right?
It's going to be unfiltered. But it's down the road from my house.
Yeah.
Like 27 runs through Somerset and goes into McCray County and all the way down into Tennessee. And it's called the Barkley Marathon or something.
Yeah.
Like you've got to find, like there's a weird way to apply for it, to run in it.
Mm-hmm.
And it's almost like it's not public, but it's a big deal. Like there was a documentary about it and everything. It was on Netflix. But anyway, it's like this, what is it called? Like it's close to Brushy Mountain Prison.
Yeah.
And I want to say it was like some guys escaped from there and ran through the woods. And like it's the same kind of loop, but it's a different way every time. And he goes through, and it's this old timer, and he tears pages, or he puts these books out at checkpoints.
Yeah.
And he'll give you a number, like your race number. That's the page you got to pull out of that book. And when you bring them back, you hand him all those papers from every book.
I think I've heard of this.
Proving that you made it to each checkpoint.
Yeah.
They're running up and down mountains, hills, everything through Tennessee, rocks, fucking thorns, everything. I mean, they'll come back cut to pieces, and they'll hit that checkpoint. They get so many minutes. What is it? Each lap's like 20-something miles or something?
I don't know. What do you get for completing this? A T-shirt?
I don't even think you get a T-shirt. I think it's just
the fuck?
You did it, bro. Way to go.
Man, they better give you like a medal or like a beer stein or some shit.
I think it's just like, I think it's the status. It's like, no, you're a bad son of a bitch. Like you ran this.
That's something intense there.
But anyway, like whenever you finally get a chance to apply, like there's this random procedure. Like I don't know, you got to find the email or the website. So you got to kind of know somebody that knows somebody. And then the entry fee is different every year. One year it might be a flannel T-shirt. It's whatever he feels like at the time. And the old man used to be like a really good runner.
Yeah.
But now he smokes and just he doesn't care. But like one year it was like a pack of cigarettes. One year it's white T-shirts. And he'd be like, well, I had enough white T-shirts, so maybe this should be socks.
Huh.
But it's whatever, he just random. And then that's your entry fee. You bring that, and that's your entry fee. But people come from all over the country.
Hey.
Out of the country. No, sometimes people don't finish. Well, like one lap, I think, is like a marathon. Like one lap's like 20-some miles or something. It's kind of ridiculous.
Everybody's
but they'll come
on
back.
Meth. It's crazy.
I'd have to be.
Yeah.
I'd have to be on meth.
The meth run.
Yeah. You ever done meth?
No.
But it would be like you can choose to go counterclockwise or clockwise on the trail.
Yeah.
And then it's like through the night too. Like how many laps is it to finish? It's like
100 some out.
Yeah, so it's like
5 laps at least.
Something like that. Like it's something crazy. It might be 3 or 4 laps. It might be more than 20. I can't remember, but it's not really something you and I would be, just chomping at the bit.
I would die. I would die doing that. If I tried to do that, I would die.
Yeah. Whenever you don't, like if you tap out and you quit, they play taps on the bugle like you fucking died, I guess. Yeah.
Something random. I don't know why that story you told me about that brought this up, but you know that doll Annabelle, the one that is possessed.
Was possessed, yeah.
Yeah. So they keep in mind they keep the shit locked in a box that is like guarded by crosses and prayers. So
they have the doll in the box.
The doll is literally in a box and it has crosses and prayers all around it. So to keep it in there, I guess. But they brought it to New Orleans. Did you see what happened in New Orleans?
I didn't.
Well, a lot of fucking shit happened. Like people were dying. There were 10, I think, or 8, might have been 8 prisoners that were murderers escaped from the prison. Did you see that? And people were betting on it.
You can bet on anything now.
Yeah. So they had 8, I think it was 8 prisoners that were all like life in prison people. They all escaped from that prison. And then people were betting on it afterwards to see who would get caught next. That's something you can bet on. But anyway, so they're doing a world tour with this doll, which I think is crazy because like the people that were told had kept in a spot and told people to never move it. And for some reason they're like, you know what? We know they said that. We're going to do a world tour though. So it comes to Lexington, Kentucky.
Did you go see it?
No, it's not here yet.
We need to go see it.
You're gonna know when it's here because the sun's
Everybody's
gonna
gonna lose their shit.
Something's gonna happen.
Yeah.
Something's gonna happen.
Yeah. Kentucky make it back to the Final Four that year.
Oh my god. Like people getting possessed.
I know, man.
That's
Would you go see it?
probably not, man.
Wow.
There's some things like I feel like are not supposed to be fucked with.
Yeah, but I don't see a fucking ventriloquist doll being one of them.
Bro, what if you go fuck with it? I bet you won't.
Let's go.
All
Let's
right.
go. We'll do a fucking podcast. So we'll have it as the guest.
That would be insane. Just sitting there.
Kyle can like put his arm up it and talk
Let's get
for
his
it.
prayer box. We got a priest over there.
Yeah. We need a young priest and an old priest,
Yeah.
like on an exorcist or something.
Yeah, we need just in case.
Or we can dress like priests.
Have you heard of
Like, we'll dress like priests.
have you
We
heard
can
of
get
Zach
we can get our
Bagans?
ministry thing online. Zach who?
Zach Bagans.
Mm-mm.
He's a dude. God, what was he? The show was like Ghost Ventures or something like that.
Oh, where they go in these houses?
Yeah, but he's
and
like a
it's
total.
haunted?
He's a total cock, and he like. You can. He just like basically fucks with his friends and makes him like. He'll be like, "All right, Jerry, you go downstairs. There's a fucking demon down there." And Jerry's like, some random ass dude. And he's like, "Me, me." And he goes down there, and he's like, and then it'll be like a voiceover, be like, "And it was at that moment Jerry got possessed. I had to go downstairs," and it's like. But this dude exists, and he has like a place in Vegas where he collects all these like haunted trinkets and shit. But man, I got to send you an episode of him just so you can
I'll check it out.
experience this guy. He's different.
We could do that. We could do like a on-site podcast maybe and have the Annabelle thing. And then like we could try to like maybe go track Bigfoot.
I feel like that exists.
Of course it does. Of course it does.
What if it's just like a really large hairy guy though? That's it.
Just some dude lives out in the woods.
Like some like 7'2" guy, and he's just like grows hair all over his body. He's just like
Yeah.
no.
Has it made.
Hasn't
Like
made.
doesn't know how horrible things are. It's like he didn't get the vaccine.
No.
He's not watched anything on the news. He's just living
He's
his
just
best
chilling.
life.
People see him and they're freaking out, trying to follow him home. He's like, "Man, I just want to be left alone."
Why are you guys stalking me, man? Like,
Yeah,
I have to get an EPO.
yeah.
I'm like, what's going on
Goes
here?
back to his cave,
Yeah.
starts his fire.
Yeah. Kicks back, watches YouTube.
Yeah, he's got Wi-Fi.
He's got Wi-Fi.
That'd be wild.
Starlink. He's got Starlink. He's out in the woods.
Starlink. What else is new in the world these days?
Oh God.
Went to the NGA show this weekend.
How was that?
It's different, very different than NPC, man. I don't know.
Yeah.
Just the construct of it is
The culture
So-
of it, is the culture of it a little different?
it's
Like,
a little different, and the way they judge almost kind of like will drive you nuts in comparison to NPC because say you've got a 7-person call out, right?
yeah.
So you'd assume like in that call out, the person in the center would usually be like first place, right? So that's technically how NPC would do it.
Sure.
Majority of the time, that person's first place.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, the way they do it there is completely different. So they'll do like 1, 2, 3 and line them up in a row.
So you've got like the person you're gauging as the number one place is off to the side, so you don't
Yeah.
get a good angle at them.
Yeah.
That's
It's
interesting.
weird. So like in the morning show, if you're used to NPC, you would think like you lost.
Sure.
And then at night, you're like, oh,
Yeah.
fucking what? Or what they'll do is if somebody looks really good, they'll just like set them over in the side on the far right
Yeah.
and just leave them over there.
Just judge everybody else.
Judge everybody else.
Now I've seen that happen rarely in NPC.
Yeah. And then
Like where they'd move somebody to the side and judge.
the other thing they do, I think that's very interesting, is like whenever they have the night show, instead of everybody coming out in like classes and by division and all that stuff, they
Yeah.
do numerical order. Everybody comes out and presents. So say like they had like 66 people, I think, in the show, and they went 1 through 66.
So you just had random like
every
bikini,
single person,
bodybuilding,
yeah.
whatever, like just whatever.
And it was
order.
like pros were mixed in there and everything. And they would just like come out and do like a routine. Like even the bikini girls had to do a routine. They would like play a song. I don't think you got to pick your song either, which is the funniest thing. So like you'd have like we had one girl on the show and she's like 21-year-old wellness girl, and they had her come out to like AC/DC.
Tremendous.
And she was like doing wellness poses to
Yeah.
AC/DC.
We need to do a show, and I'll pick your posing music, and you can pick mine.
All right.
What would you pick for me?
Arms of an Angel.
That's a good one.
Yeah. And
That's
you
a
have to
good
post to it really slow.
Yeah. Well, I mean, obviously. you'd
Well, actually, I want you to
this.
post to it fast.
Post it fast. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Throw people off.
Or like, what's that one song? Sandstorm by, well, I forget what it's by, but it's that one like really fast electric song. It's like,
Everybody thinks I'm just having like convulsions.
Like, what do you even pose that? Do you just shake the entire time? Like,
Just twerk. Yeah.
you remember? I remember back in the day when I first competed, there was a guy that got up on stage, and I guess he was like, just knew he won, so he literally got up on stage, just shook his ass for 60 seconds, and he won. But I always thought that was the most ridiculous thing I've ever seen.
Just like, I mean, did he go through any poses? Or he just shook
Not
his
really,
ass?
just shook his ass.
Just shook
man.
his ass. Well,
Yeah,
I mean,
it just shows you it doesn't matter.
yeah. I mean, like
Judges weren't even looking; they're texting.
Yeah. They're putting in a Zen, just hanging out.
Bathroom break, it's,
Yep.
yeah, whatever.
Yeah, you look up and they're all just gone.
And the whole audience is just sitting there like, huh.
Yeah.
Parents of the other people are like, this is a bodybuilding show. Okay.
Yeah. And his mom's out there like, "That's my baby."
Yeah.
Yeah. He done good.
He's got a whole crowd over there going nuts. Like,
Yeah.
he's Venezuelan. It's crazy. Anyway,
Yeah.
NGA shows different. They're different.
Yeah.
Uh,
I've worked with athletes that competed in NGA, but I've never been to an NGA show.
I mean, they're well ran. I think it's a good place for like natural
I've
competitors
always
to
heard
start.
that. Like I've heard that it's very well ran.
Yeah.
And it's a good.
They do a
it's
good job, and
organization.
it's a good experience. I think it's a good place for people to get started.
Yeah.
I actually enjoy coaching natural people a lot because they don't have any crutch. Like it's all diet, cardio, and training.
Yeah.
That's all you've got. You don't have anything.
Yeah, and I think a lot of times you have, because it is so glamorized now, I think some people think that the missing ingredient is the drugs, and I think they rely on it too much.
Well, I've seen Instagram lately, and I know we've talked about this, but it's become like a lot of people are posting more and more stuff that's just like anabolic advice, and I don't think they realize that like a lot of kids are watching.
A lot of kids are watching, but also too, a lot of kids are posting that.
Yeah, and I
like young guys posting their cycles.
Yeah,
and
I
stuff.
saw a young kid the other day, and you read the comments on the thing, but he was posting him and his like 18-year-old girlfriend's cycle.
Yeah,
and they both didn't look like they were on anything, honestly. But it was just like,
and man, like it's when you see that, you're like, okay, if you're 16, 17 years old, one, how long have you been training?
Yeah.
And two, like, how do you know you even like this long enough to do it?
That's
like
a lot of what I try to tell people.
Because once you open Pandora's box, there's no closing it. Especially whenever you're in a position where your natural test should be the highest it's ever going to be.
Yep.
Chances are you may have a higher test level than somebody on enhancement. Like somebody that's on TRT might be middle of the road, and yours might be even higher.
Yeah.
And you think you need to add
a lot of guys,
to it.
and they'll want to start running something. I say, go get your blood work done. They come back and their test level's at 850 plus. Naturally.
What do you need,
and
man?
I'm like, man,
what do you need? You don't need anything.
You don't need anything.
Your diet and your work ethic.
Yeah.
If you're not in shape and your hormones are optimal, your thyroid functions optimal, all these things, and you're not in shape, that's simply you not working hard enough. Or you're not being serious with your diet.
Yeah.
Honestly, I mean, because I think, and even like when guys cycle, sometimes like, and they'll go into a maintenance phase and pull back to a TRT dose, and they think, well, I'm just going to hang out here, and then I won't be able to grow. And it's like, well, how would natural athletes ever improve if you couldn't?
I get more compliments these days. I've been only on 150 tests for the past, year and a half. Mm-hmm. And people always come up to me and they're like, man, what do you run? Like, what do you do? And all this stuff. And I just maintain this. Look, this is just where I stay. I stay around 180 pounds. Max I've been up to is about 210, 215.
Yeah.
So to me,
what are you right now?
180.
Yeah.
And
you
I
look
stay
good.
there.
You look good.
Yeah. And I like being right there. But all I'm on is 150 tests. That's it.
Yeah.
But I always have people telling me that like whenever they're on a cruise dose of tests, they're like, I just don't feel good. And I'm like, it's all about your diet and training and
you probably
your lifestyle.
And I made a post about this the other day, but like you'll have people say, well, I hit a plateau. You didn't hit a plateau. Mm-mm. You just stopped doing the boring things that work.
Yep.
It's you stopped being routine with everything.
Yeah.
And that's your quote unquote plateau. Well, you didn't hit a plateau.
Routine's key. And I tell a lot of people when they talk to me, I'm like, I eat the same exact meals every single day. If I eat something different off plan, it's still kind of structured in the way that I know what it's doing for me.
Exactly.
And I live pretty easily.
Yeah.
And I feel like I'm trying to get that across to people that are younger. Mm-hmm. And a lot of them listen. They're very coachable. Like I have a kid that just started with me, and he was telling me he wanted to go up in dosages on stuff. And I was like, man, you don't need to.
No.
I was like, you don't need to.
The least amount possible for the desired effect.
I was like, you already have stuff working. I was like, why do you need to do that?
Yeah.
And he luckily listened to that advice. And I have to really tell these people, like, I've done this a long time, man. I'm not going to just tell you something that's going to set you backwards. No. We're still moving forwards.
And I mean, like we're working together.
Yeah.
So like, my name is attached to you. Why would I have you do anything that wasn't in your best benefit? Because I mean, I'm going to look bad with you.
Yeah.
So I think sometimes people forget that. It's like, I'm not going to steer you in any direction that I don't feel is optimal, because like, one, your health is my main important goal.
Yeah.
And two, like we're in this together.
Man, that was a big thing that made me very happy this weekend. We had the dad of one of our competitors, and after the show, he thanked me and Laura. He was like, "Hey, thank you guys for doing this the right way."
Sure.
And I think it was his first time at a show, and he was watching a lot of these people, and they looked unhealthy, and they were doing this weird shit.
Mm-hmm.
But we do it the right way. Like you want to make sure these people stay healthy and can have longevity in this.
Absolutely.
And continue to do this. And I feel like I've had a lot of kids that have worked with me in the past, and I've always tried to tell them that. And then they want to go skip ahead and they want to do more and more and more to try to get faster results. And it may work for a short period of time, but then it always leads to a setback.
Absolutely.
I've always seen an injury or health gets bad or digestion goes to shit.
Something I don't think people consider.
What happens?
Exactly. Something that I don't think people consider is like the dose of anabolics and hormones that you take are very dependent upon how much your particular system and organs can stand.
Yeah.
Like, there's some guys that can take a bit more and their organs stand it. And then there's some people that are very sensitive to it.
Yeah.
And once you get to a point to where you're compromising health and your blood markers are way off, man, your body's not going to grow, and you're not going to be able to eat enough. Like you said there with digestion, you're not going to be able to eat enough because you're going to get sick.
Well, it's a hard truth about bodybuilding, and I always tell people this with any fitness goal in general. Like, there's some people that I have that can maintain these heavy weights and feel normal.
Sure.
And I'll use an example of this. I've got a guy that's about my height, and he can stay over 200 pounds and lean, and he feels just fine.
Sure.
For me, getting over 200 pounds, I usually feel like complete trash. Yeah. My body is like, man, what the fuck is going on?
Yeah. So the example sometimes that I tell people, like for me, I'm 5'10". For up until I began really trying to grow, like whenever I wasn't really concerned with bodybuilding or anything, and I was just grappling and fighting, I would stay around 190-ish.
Yeah.
So you figure, okay, naturally I'm around 190 on that frame. I was athletic at that weight, so on. So you think about this, it's like, okay, now I have the same organs and everything that I did at 190, but now say I'm 240.
Yeah.
And I think people don't consider that too, man. Like, unless you're a natural, like I've got one guy, he's a grappler. He's a world-class grappler, and he is on absolutely no hormones. He doesn't want to do any of that. He wants to go as far naturally as he can. And I love it. It's great. But naturally, dude, I fixed his diet. He's got abs at 240 something. He's probably 5'11".
Yeah.
And I mean, he's an absolute animal. Like, but his body, you see him when he was a kid, he was always big. Like his body's naturally okay with carrying that. Like he's naturally that weight. But you take sometimes, man, like you're naturally a smaller guy and you put on a ton of weight, even if it is muscle, dude, it's hard to carry that.
Yeah.
And you think like, okay, well now my heart and everything is working to keep up with this. It's like the example sometimes I use is like, say you build a 2-bedroom house and you buy a heat and air unit for that 2-bedroom house. Now say you add on another bedroom.
Yeah.
Now, okay, some years go by, you add an office, you add another whatever, and you still got that same heat and air unit.
Yeah.
That thing's going to run all day long to try to keep up with it. It's the same concept, man. Yeah. Like you have to, and if you're doing that for a season, you're doing that to try and grow for bodybuilding. Okay. But like to your point, once you stop all that, man, you realize you don't feel as good carrying all that weight. Like whenever I was 240, 243, like you're eating so much, you've got labored breathing because the pressure on your damn lungs from your intestines being so full.
Yeah.
And, you get out of breath climbing a flight of stairs.
Dude.
Like, imagine living your life that way.
It's
rough.
I've been there.
You look impressive, but it's like, man, you get out of breath.
At my biggest, I felt my worst. And that's just how it was. And I feel like I said, that it's a genetic thing where I feel like some people have the ability to maintain that mass and easily live.
Yes.
And others just cannot.
Yeah. And I think there's some truth to that also with like how lean somebody can stay and feel good.
Yeah.
and the biggest part of that comes from consistency with your diet and your training and being healthy. But also, like, you have some people that just, I think being in good shape looks a little different on everybody.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like, you have some guys that are a little bit smoother. They're in great shape. Can run 10 miles, feel great, whatever. And you have some guys that are really lean and they're in good shape.
Well, that's a funny thing is I've had to kind of realize over years what some people's ideal body style is too.
Absolutely.
I have a lot of general nutrition guys that their ideal body style, they want to be around like 12 to 14% body fat. They don't want to be too lean because then they feel like they look too skinny.
Sure.
And I have some where I get them to about that point and they're like, man, can we go ahead and grow? Like, and I'm like, yeah, absolutely. Like, we need you to be happy where you're at. Mm-hmm. And we need to do what's best for your mental, because you're going to get the best results when your mental is going towards the direction that it wants to go towards.
And when we talk about being in shape and being healthy, that includes all that.
Yeah.
The mental state, we had an episode on that, and I feel like that's not something that's addressed enough. If you're in great shape or whatever, but all the things you're doing are causing you to be depressed or have anxiety, or you're taking these drugs that have anxiety, causing you anxiety issues, then the mental side's not there.
Yeah.
And everything else is going to be, affected by that.
Well, what I see a lot of, and it's what people will do is they want fast results.
Sure.
With fitness. So I often see people run a lot of gear, push a lot of food, push things way too quick. So they may gain like 30 pounds, but then they realize they left their joints and ligaments behind.
Sure.
So you may get 6 months of fast results, but it could pay off by getting an injury that puts you out for a year.
Yeah. I mean, because your ligaments, your bone density, all that increases over time as well. But I mean, whenever you start pushing especially if it's new and you're pushing all this stuff, that stimulus is going to be as such, and you'll build muscle, and that stuff can't catch up.
Yeah.
And then
6 months of fast results to get a year off, that puts you behind in the negative.
Yeah.
And then
one step forward, 2 steps back.
Whenever you could have easily done it in a slower fashion.
Yeah.
And it may have taken you 2 years to get to where you were, but then you're ahead. You're in the plus.
Yeah.
So I've had to really try to present that information in a way that people understand. Yeah. And luckily a lot of people do listen, but I feel like there's so much information out there that I would consider bad information.
Anybody can post anything. If they've got a phone or a computer, they can put up anything. And it doesn't have to be, that's the thing. I mean, if it's political, it'll get fact checked. But if it's these drugs that could kill somebody, then it's okay. It's not going to get fact checked.
The funniest thing I saw was I got a video sent to me the other day, and it was a guy doing a T-bar row. And he was like, his post, it was like a young kid, curly hair, maybe like 150 pounds. And he was doing a T-bar row. And he was like, when you do more plates than Nick Walker does. And it showed him doing a T-bar row with like 2.5 plates. And it was like the most horrible, it was just horrible form. He was like pulling his chest off the chest support. And then it shows Nick Walker doing the Arsenal row. The humbler, and doing like 1 plate each side, doing it with perfect form. Yeah. And the kid's like trying to flex like he did something there.
Yeah.
And that's the type of stuff I see lately. But then people get these egos where they're like, well, I can lift more than this guy. And it's like, nah, you're not using the muscle. You're not going to look like that guy.
There's no intent there. The intent is just simply moving the weight in his case. And so with bodybuilding, you're trying to do things in a certain way to activate certain muscles and really just tax that muscle. And he's turned it into a full body movement, and for the sake of ego.
And those are the same people that will complain eventually about their back hurting.
Absolutely.
Yep.
Yeah.
Anytime somebody gets injured, I'm always asking them, like, what have you been doing?
Sure.
Send me a video of your form.
Yeah.
And then surely enough, there's something where I'm like, why are you trying to do 315 on a barbell row?
I have that all the time. I have clients send me videos so that I can critique, especially big compound movements. Yeah. Barbell rows, squats, deadlifts, these type things. Because body mechanics are so important on these. And, you'll see it's like, well, my knees are hurting. It's like, okay, well, send me a video. Their heels are coming up. It's like, okay, well, do you have bad ankle mobility?
Yep.
Or is your bar path wrong and you're driving your hips forward, getting into your toes? Maybe he's quad dominant. And it's like there's certain things to address. Yeah. And I don't think people consider that. They just consider seeing the bar go up and down.
Yep.
And then brag about weight for a half squat. And it's like, come on, man.
Yeah. Well, there's a lot of easy fixes for stuff like that too if you communicate. Like for example, with bad ankle mobility, I'll have people do calf raises before they actually start their leg workouts.
Sure.
And oftentimes that fixes a lot of the issue.
Or if it's bad, or they've had like an ankle injury and they've genuinely lost mobility in it, dude, stand on wedges.
Stand on wedges.
Wear lifters.
Yeah. I always recommend Nike Metcon 5s.
Yeah.
That's usually the shoe that I recommend to people because it's very easy to wear for both all types of training.
Sure.
And has a heel elevation.
Mm-hmm.
So what I've noticed is with people who have the inability to get good ankle mobility or full knee flexion, and they need to, it can improve that.
Yeah.
So it's a simple fix and a simple buy.
Mm-hmm.
And like you said, wedges, I know Prime makes some like single wedges that are really good. Or
yeah, I keep them at my gym. I have just these rubber, like dense rubber wedges, and there's two of them. One's thin, one's medium, or you can put them together and have a really tall wedge.
And yeah, if you don't have any of that available
Super
at the
easy.
time, you could probably just use two 25 or 45 pound plates and put your heels on them.
Yeah, the least if you're trying to do it for the sake of squatting normally, then the least wedge needed to keep pressure in your entire foot.
Yeah.
So you can even do a 5 or a 10 if you can. But if you need it for like a quad emphasis or your ankles are terrible, then 25, 45, whatever you need.
That leads me to, I've had to kind of manipulate a lot of machines these days to properly fit some people. So one thing I'll do is I'll use like a yoga mat and I'll have it folded up like either hamburger style, or I'll fold it into a 4 so it elevates. And I may have somebody sit on that while they're doing a leg press to get better leverage, or I put it on the back of a lying leg curl to create a larger platform so that they can better get hamstring activation.
Absolutely.
And there's things you can do that can make any movement better for you personally with your biomechanics, but you have to sometimes send that video and be open to switching things up.
Your coach needs to see that, and if your coach understands body mechanics well enough, he'll be able to help you with that.
Yeah.
But I'll even use it honestly just for like technique improvements, like with combat athletes.
Yeah.
You think of how you stand when you're in a combative stance, whether it be grappling or boxing or anything. You're sometimes you're in a little bit of flexion in the spine and protraction in the shoulders. So for grappling here, even for boxing, because your arms are forward, they're protecting your body, your core. And with that being said, a lot of times they'll get used to flexion in the spine and not extension. And that thoracic spine will be very difficult for them to get extension. And we need that for chest activation. So sometimes I'll use those yoga mats like you talk about. I'll roll it up and I'll put it under the thoracic spine to help with being able to extend that thoracic spine, get their chest up.
Yeah. Now
you're helping them stretch a bit too, but you're helping them get that chest activation. That way, less risk of injury, because then they can set their scapula better, all those things like on these pressing movements. So all that, there's ways around things.
Yeah.
But you have to, it's like you see some people and they just go through the movement. Okay, well, they know A plus B equals C. Okay, cool. Well, once you understand it deep enough and you know why A plus B equals C, well, then I can get C however I need to.
Yeah.
Maybe Y plus 2 equals C, whatever the hell it is. And that's where, again, I think sometimes people say, okay, well, I eat this and I do 3 sets of 10. It's like, okay, well, what are we doing? Like, what's the intent here? Are you doing it correctly? Are you, risking injury? All those things.
And what I've also tried to tell people over the years is there's really no research around training that says one way is better than one other. So you have to really find the individual way for each person.
100%.
And that can change drastically between two people.
Yeah.
So
it can change in the same person as their bodies changes.
So for example, too, like I've seen over the years, full knee flexion is very much like hard pushed for everybody. Mm-hmm. And some of the guys I have with the biggest legs don't train in knee flexion, full knee flexion. They're able to do a half rep squat or, half rep leg press with heavy weight, and their quads grow because they're built that way. But then I have other people that cannot do that, thinking, oh, well, that guy does it like this, so I can. So I should be able to grow like that. And they have completely different biomechanics.
100%.
So each person's built so differently. And I think that's the one thing that a lot of coaches don't realize.
Absolutely.
So they get in these ways where everybody has to do it this way. Mm-hmm. You shouldn't be fully stretching your back, or you need to fully stretch your back, or this or that. And in reality, there's no 100% correct way.
No, there's not. And if there was this one, particular way that worked for everybody, that would mean we all had the same body type, we all had the same range of motion, everything was the same. And that's not the case with anybody. And even still, like in the same athlete, you'll see their forms adjust as their body changes. Say you've got somebody and he's 350 pounds and he's got to open his stance more on squat to make room for his torso.
Yep.
Otherwise, his belly's going to run into his quads and he's going to run out of room. He can't squat low enough. He can't, actually move through the movement correctly. But then as he gets leaner, all of a sudden now he can bring his legs in more.
Yep.
And his form adjusts because his body has changed.
Yep.
And, so you'll see that. So it's, and as you get older, say you have, a joint issue or whatever, sometimes we can manipulate those things to still give you the activation you need. You know, so that's the thing. It's don't ever get set on this one exact particular thing. If there's movements that I will say this though, if there's certain movements that maybe feel good to you that you can really connect to, stick with those and use variations of them, but don't ever get set on I have to do this exactly this way always.
Yeah.
Cause it's going to change from one person to the next and even in your life possibly.
Yeah. I mean, you could be training with somebody at the gym and you guys could be both doing the exact same movement and you may need to do it in very different ways to get the same results.
Absolutely. Well, myself, when I was younger and I was, 190s and I would be bench pressing, I had a wider grip and I would pull my feet back under me and enhance that arch some. I'd keep the balls of my feet on the floor and my hips down and stuff obviously for competition. All that would be a scratch if that moves. But with that being said, as I got older, my shoulders got worse. I flattened my feet out to take some of the extension out of my low back, and I gripped a little closer to take some of that abduction out of my shoulder. And I was benching more then. I was stronger, but my body had changed. So if I tried to bench the way I did before, my back was hurting. My shoulders couldn't open enough to bring that down without risking tearing something. So, that's the thing to consider too is allowing that to evolve as your body changes,
Yeah. I mean, it's something a lot of people don't think about.
They don't know to think about it.
You don't know to think about it. You don't think about your body's changing, so you need to change your movement patterns. Yeah. And I have to look at a lot of different people's form and I have to really read it individually and I have to make small manipulations. There's times where people send me a video of them doing an exercise and I'm like, let's use a completely different way of doing it. Like I may have somebody using a barbell for say a stiff leg deadlift. And I'm like, I just don't like how it looks. Let's go ahead and use dumbbells instead. Sure. All of a sudden for them, that is so much better. Or another example is somebody maybe doing an overhand barbell row and then switching to underhand. And that simply works better for them and activates better. Yeah. And it's all based on, it could be how long your arms are, how your ability to get an extension is. Yeah,
your particular physical attributes. Yeah.
So don't be afraid to do something in a way that's best for you. And I always have to tell people that. I'm like, just because you see one person doing it this way doesn't mean you can do it that way.
Yeah, and you'll see oftentimes people will see someone and they admire their physique, so they want to do everything they did. And it's like, okay, this person built that physique, not by doing something that someone else did, but by doing what was best for them.
Yep.
And you have to learn what's best for you. And, you can do that from trial and error over many, many, many years, or you can hire a professional to help you with that, and, get way ahead of schedule with that. But again, it's all dependent upon your particular attributes. And there's so many things to consider. And I think some people they walk into the gym for the first time and they see people doing this and doing this and doing this. And I'll do that. And I think there's a lot of people don't understand that these movements are meant to be done a certain way and be felt a certain way.
Yeah.
And they don't consider how it feels. They just consider how it looks.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, I wanted to ask you something because I know you got your certification recently for competitive fighting sports like MMA.
And it's something I'd done for years, but I just went ahead and got certified as a weight cut specialist.
Yeah. Weight cut specialist.
Yeah, it was one of those things where, I'd done it for many, many years, and a large part of my clientele are combative athletes.
Yeah.
And so it's one of those things where, even though I had done it for years, it's like sometimes, seeing other approaches, and so on, and from especially established coaches, established, organizations and so on, just even a different take on things, or honestly touching back up on things that you knew and maybe hadn't thought about in a long time.
I think that's a really smart thing to do. Like,
it is, man.
Even with bodybuilding, that they released, and people talk shit about it. I think it's funny. They released an NASM bodybuilding coach certification.
Yeah.
And it's in regards with like the IBB and NPC, and they kind of teamed up for it and all this stuff. And people like talk bad about it because they're like, oh, it's just a personal training certificate. So I went ahead and did it to see what it was like. And for me, it was a lot of review from going to college, you know, and it was a lot of stuff that was just simple review and baseline of like the Krebs cycle. And but I was going through it and I was like, you know, what's crazy is I know a ton of people that are coaching don't know any of this.
Absolutely not. And I think a lot of times you'll have people go through a prep. Well, God, I've seen it and you have too. They'll go through a prep with a coach. They'll do one show and now they're taking clients. And the only knowledge they have on this is what they did that coach told them. And it's like, okay, so you know how your body responded to that if you've tracked info. But what about this guy who's 20 years older than you and never used gear? And like, what about that?
And they get stuck and then they are sitting there basically experimenting. But it was something insane that I saw because I was going through this and a lot of it for me was review. I was able to easily pass these quizzes. But I'm sitting there thinking, I'm like, I know damn well 90% of these people taking on clients have no idea what any of this is.
Absolutely. And
that was kind of scary.
It really is. Like, especially when you have people that get, you know, well, back to the earlier topic, you have people discussing anabolics and discussing things that really affect literally everything in your body without any kind of understanding of endocrinology
other than what their coach told them.
If they even had a coach, they may have just been able to buy it and took it. A lot of people know those buzzwords. Trin and DECA and all these things.
So I see the big thing lately is the Victor Black Masterclass. It's all about the high DHTs. So what's funny about that is like, I agree with that to a certain extent. Like I do think higher DHTs can create a better effect in a safer way. But what I think a lot of people understand is there's not a ton of research behind it.
No.
It's impossible to research a lot of these topics involving bodybuilding because we cannot get a control group like that.
You're working with illegal substances.
Yes, it's very hard to get a control group because people aren't always following the same diet. They're doing this so differently. They may be training in a whole different intensity level than the other. And what I'm worried about with the future of bodybuilding with the higher DHTs and, you know, we're moving away from other stuff and higher test and, you know, nandrolones and things like that. So we may be trading heart problems for prostate issues.
So I think it's give and take there too. I think too, you know, leaning more toward DHT and a little bit away from AIs. I think there is a benefit there for cholesterol and heart health. I do think there is a benefit there, but I don't think that you need to be running a ton of DHT like on TRT. You know, like if you're just taking normal test. So I work with a company called First Optimal and I'll send clients to them and they're awesome. Like they don't have a particular clinic that you have to go to. It's all via online. You'll do telehealth visits and stuff and they'll send you a rec to go to your local LabCorp. It's a lot more convenient. But anyway, they'll show you your blood work. They'll go over everything. You can give me access to it. I can look at it for my clients and discuss all this. But, you know, the idea there being to get them in an optimal position. You know, I think sometimes you go to your family doctor and it's like, well, you're inside the normal limits. Well, there's a big difference between inside normal limits and being optimal. You know, like even with your TSH, you know, 0.45 to 4.5 is within normal limits. You know, but good luck if you're on either end of that. You know, so that being said, even with testosterone and especially for females, for whatever reason, a lot of doctors think, it's like pulling teeth to get them to help a female with hormones. And it's like, dude, she feels terrible. And you can look at the blood work and say it's not optimal. But the
scales are just too wide. You know, like if you get your test levels checked and you're a male and they're at like 300 and that's considered the lower level right there, you're not going to feel too great.
Unless you've maintained those levels all your life. If you've maintained a lower level all your life, then that might be normal for you and you might feel okay, but you could feel better. You could certainly feel better, but especially like you have somebody that's been on the upper end of the range for most of their life and then now they're getting older and it starts to decline. He needs to be back up there. You know, he's going to feel better. He's going to recover better. His mental health is going to be better. You know, that's a big thing too. Everybody just thinks of testosterone for building muscle. You know? It's not. Like It's an essential hormone.
And a lot of people don't realize they need to keep their estrogen at a certain level too to
You
grow
need
muscle.
estrogen.
Yeah, and
You need
I see a
estrogen.
lot of like I've had especially a lot of younger guys come to me and they've followed advice from Instagram and whatnot, and they'll be using like extremely low tests and then like an extremely high amount of DHT, and they'll go get their blood work done and their estrogen's bottomed.
Sure.
So you're not going to grow muscle.
No, and you're going to feel horrible.
You're going to feel like shit.
You're going to feel horrible.
So you got to find a good balance there. And then DHTs do have proven evidence of being hard on the prostate. So it's kind of like you got a fine line of what's too much and you got to find that perfect balance. So I feel like a lot of people are pushing these way too hard, and individuals that don't need to be that, it doesn't need to be that high on some people.
Yeah.
So
and to that point, it's like, well, how would you know if things are too low or too high? Blood work. That's the only way to do it. You have to look. That's the only way to know. I mean, and here's the thing too. You say, well, I've got these symptoms or whatever else. Yeah, well, it's going to be fucking subjective. It's going to be very subjective because you're altering hormones that are going to change how you think.
Yep.
So it's going to be really difficult for you to be subjective whenever you're filled with anxiety, you're depressed, all these things. It's going to be really hard to say, well, maybe my estrogen's low whenever you're just fucked up in the head. You can't think straight. So that's where, again, having trusted people you can go to and having your blood work to look at, because that's very objective.
Yeah.
That number is there. That's a fucking number.
And that's how you can balance things out, and you can make small adjustments to your ancillaries, and it makes a whole difference. Like a small adjustment to something on your blood work that's shown to be not in a good optimal spot can make your whole life better. It can make everything work better. Like you could not be digesting food well, and it could be something involving your hormones. And you can change some of these things and get a lot better results. You could not be sleeping well at night, and it could be something involving your hormones.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So always get that checked. I try to encourage people to do it more while they're on cycle, especially so you can kind of see midway through what's going on. And it's harder to get people to do that, though, I've realized. I don't know if it's a financial thing. Some people just hate getting blood work done in general.
So, I mean, nobody enjoys getting a needle poked into their arm, but when you realize that's a very small price to pay for keeping your health in check.
Like if you can go to there and you can just get your estrogen checked and you get your E1, E2 checked, you can see that you may need less AI or no AI, or you may need to lower your DHT, or you can increase your DHT slightly or increase your test and like balance the ratio out. That's a lot of information that could get you a lot better results.
Absolutely. And that's what, again, I work with First Optimal. There's a lot of good ones out there. There's Optimize You. I know a lot of people that work with them. There's a lot of good ones out there. But the thing is, I remember talking with Joe Miller, the owner of First Optimal, and we were talking about it. And I started asking some questions because we were discussing, him working with my clients and so on. And I said, okay, well, and I brought up the topic of AIs. Yeah. Because I was curious where he was at with that. Because, with anything, and I know you agree, it's like, okay, I don't want to be just affiliated with anyone. Yeah. I want to make sure that you see things the same way I do. Exactly. I want to make sure that you're going to hold to the same standard that I do. And I want to make sure that, health is paramount. Yep. If that's not the goal, then we're on two different teams. Like it's not going to work. And he said, well, we try not to use them. He said, ideally, we want to get them to an optimal position. And he said, if we find out that there's issues, therefore we would need an AI, we want to find out why they're metabolizing these things differently, what's going on there, and find the root of the issue. I was like, okay. All right, good deal. Because again, it's if we're taking something and then we're having these issues and we have to continue to add to it, it's like, okay, well, what's causing this? Yeah. We need to find that. And again, that only is possible through blood work, through working with professionals, not just some maintenance guy at your gym that sells you trend, not, your personal trainer is not a pharmacist. No. So knowing these things and getting that objective feedback. Yes. That's key. That's everything. If you plan on having any sort of life.
Yeah. Cause with AIs, I try to use minimal or none. Absolutely. As much as possible. And it's funny though, cause I have a lot of people that the culture in the past has been like, you absolutely need one. Absolutely. I remember, 10, 15 years ago when I first started getting into that, I was like told by every bodybuilder I knew, you have to use it. You need to use it no matter what. And it was like astronomical amounts. It was almost daily for some people. Mm-hmm. I remember seeing a cycle back in the day and it was like 1 milligram of Arimidex daily. Jesus. And they were trying to grow. And I'm like, you're probably working against yourself there.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, you don't realize how your
you're not gonna
cholesterol's
grow.
bad.
Yeah.
You're probably hurting your joints. You're probably bottoming out your estrogen. You're probably feeling like shit.
Mm-hmm.
And then you're having to run more tests to balance that out.
Yeah.
When you could have probably ran a lot less of everything.
Absolutely.
And dropped that and been in a much better spot.
Yeah. And now there are cases. So I want to say this so that somebody thinks, well, if they're on Remodex from their doctor, that it's a bad thing.
Nah,
I do want to say there are some cases where it's needed.
Yeah.
But again, the least possible dose for the desired effect.
Yes.
And that's not something you can just say, okay, well, let's just take, X amount each day a week. I think we'll be good. It doesn't work that way.
I've got a handful of guys that still have to take it.
Absolutely. So as do I.
Yeah. And that's just what we've discovered through blood work, though, like you said.
Exactly.
And then that's what works for them. And we keep their estrogen levels around 30 to 40, sometimes a little bit higher. I like it a little bit elevated. But I found that about 30 to 40 is a good spot to be.
I feel like on mid-range or upper mid-range, if you're trying to grow, works very well.
Mm-hmm. And then it's really good for cutting as well. Like I don't like to bottom out too much. I like to keep it at a modest level because what I've noticed is deep in prep, when people are really bottoming that out, that's where the mental,
where they struggle. That's where the mental issues
come from, or worse, an injury.
Yeah.
Like I had a guy the other day and we were talking about even another topic, Winstrol.
Mm-hmm.
And he was like, I need to increase my dosage closer to show. And back in the past, like I've seen a lot of people do that. Like, week out, 2 weeks out, they'll double the dose.
Mm-hmm.
But in reality, like, why?
Yeah. If you're getting the desired effect from it, then
why would you need to do that? And what I've noticed more from some people doing that is actually more dryness in the joints and more pain while lifting. And if you can't lift that weight and maintain that muscle and you're having to drop down weight because you're in pain, then we're working against ourselves there.
Absolutely.
Too.
And in the one case where we can justify somewhat of lowering estrogen would be in that last leg of prep in peak week or so.
Yeah.
And in which case also that means lessened workload on the lifting.
Yep.
You're just doing those depletion workouts.
Yeah.
The stress on your body is much, much less. So if you're trying to do that through the prep, whenever, the goal is to maintain muscle and be able to lift with the intensity to do so, you're going to feel terrible.
Oh, yeah.
You're risking your joints, you're risking a lot.
Yeah, it's even like these days with leg days. If I have a competitor that has they're in a class where it requires them to show their leg details, I will often do the last quad day, maybe 10 days out now.
Yeah.
And I will do like the last hamstring day, usually 7 days out.
Absolutely.
And then that week of show is, upper body days with like moderate weight. We're still lifting, but we don't want any inflammation. That's actually the best route to go, is make sure they're doing a little bit less.
Yeah. And
getting people to understand that, because I have some people that want to push, and I'm like, it's almost backwards to them.
Yeah. If you're going into that show and you have soreness, that's an indication you have inflammation.
Yeah.
And, you can smooth yourself out that way. You can come in looking less defined.
Yeah.
It's
stress your body out.
Yeah.
You got to really use that rest and relaxation to your advantage.
Absolutely. We talk about this topic a lot. This always comes up in conversation, about the drug use and so on. But I think it does simply because it's not addressed properly. I feel like it's always glamorized.
Yeah.
And so many people get a bad take on it. So, it's not that we're demonizing anything.
No,
we're demonizing the misuse.
Yeah. There's so many ways to do this, and it's so different for each person.
It is.
And that's what I try to represent with my coaching style, is like, hey, this person may do well on that, but this person may do well on the opposite.
Yeah.
And I think we've gotten to a spot within the coaching field and the fitness industry in general where everybody is like, you only got to do it this way, or you should only do it this way. And in reality, there's a middle ground that I think needs to be represented, where it's like, well, some people work best like this and others work best like this. And there's some people that work in the middle of that.
And anything else in life.
It's all different.
Exactly. And anything else in life, anybody would say, yeah, that makes perfect sense.
Yeah.
It's like medication. You go to the doctor and you get a med for whatever. Okay. Well, do you think because that medicine's helping you with your particular ailment that everyone should take it?
Yeah. So, no, you don't.
Probably not.
I don't need it.
Probably not.
Yeah.
Or should they take it at the same dosage you did?
Exactly.
Probably not. It's the same concept here,
Yeah.
and sometimes the side effects can be even more detrimental, so thinking that there's only that one approach, I've got to take this. And sometimes that comes back from an earlier topic that we made about people just copying and pasting what they had. Now you got to do what I did.
Yeah. I think you got to be a mature mindset, and you have to be open-minded, especially in the coaching industry these days. Like, I've seen people change their mind about stuff on a week to week basis.
Yeah.
Because the research on stuff is forever changing.
It is.
And I have to really tell people that. I'm like, okay, well, this may be hot this week because so-and-so posted about it. But watch, a month from now, they're going to change their fucking mind.
Absolutely.
And it happens month after month, year after year. So take everything you see with bodybuilding with a grain of salt. You're going to have to see it for yourself and see what works best for you. And sometimes that takes some trial and error.
We're looking at effects of drugs being used out of context. Like a lot of the drugs that we're discussing aren't, made specifically. Like there's no drugs that are made specifically for bodybuilding. No. Like even the AIs we're talking about, that's like breast cancer medication. So that being said, it's very difficult to have a lot of, literature and feedback and testing from that being used outside of its intention. Yeah. So the only thing that we have that is for sure is health markers.
Yep.
That's the only thing that we can say is absolutely subjective.
And honestly, I think those are going to be changing to more optimal levels here as the years go on.
They should be.
They should be. I think there should be a much smaller range that's considered healthy.
Yes.
And I really feel like over time, that's going to shift and hopefully more people will be in a healthier spot.
I think it will if we as a whole.
Yeah, it's going to take some time.
The issue you run into there is if the goal is to make someone optimal, and I'm not trying to get political here, but if the goal is to make someone optimal and for them to have to take less medicine by being more healthy, somebody's going to lose money.
Yep. And that's an issue. You're right.
I think you have to consider that. It's like, okay, well, you go to the doctor and they say, well, you take this and this is going to help with your blood sugar and so on. Well, how about we just lose 60 pounds?
Yeah.
Because your body fat's closer to 40%. How about we lose some weight? Bet you don't have to take that metformin. Bet you don't have to take this med.
Very true.
So I think
lifestyle changes.
But I think too, like understanding that it all starts with you making those healthy lifestyle changes. And then once you get to that point, then I promise you probably won't need as many things as you thought you would.
Agree.
Yeah.
One day, man, for a better future.
That's it, man. We're going to run for office on that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I could never run for office, bro. I feel like anybody that runs for office should not be in office.
That's true. That's true.
That's facts.
That's true. But we're going to change that.
Yeah.
We'll sit out front with a pot of coffee and free handshakes.
Yeah. Free ponies for everybody.
Free pony rides.
Yeah.
That's it. This has been Bedson and Coffee Unfiltered. Thank you guys for listening.
Make sure to go follow us on social media.